welcome to the Daily News Simplified, the why, what and how of newspaper reading. Today we will discuss the daily edition of the Hindu newspaper dated 17th July 2018. So let's start. This news article on page number 7 is related to the testing of Brahmos Missile in extreme weather conditions. Now this topic will fall under the preliminary examination syllabus under the topic current events of national importance. Now previously 2 questions have been asked on such state-of-the-art military technologies. For example, a question was asked in the year 2014 which was related to the Agni 4 missile. And in 2016 a question was asked related to the INS Astradharini. So under this article we will try to understand some of the basic facts that are related to the Brahmos missile, and we will also understand what is the news all about. And at last we will also try to understand how to solve questions that are related to such technologies, and we will try to answer these questions that were asked in the preliminary examination. Now Brahmos missile is a medium range supersonic cruise missile, and it can be launched from submarines, ships, aircrafts and land. And a unique fact about Brahmos missile is that it is the fastest supersonic cruise missile in the world. And you should know that supersonic missiles are those missiles which travel faster than the speed of sound. Now this Brahmos missile has a strike range of around 290 kilometers. Now the strike range of Brahmos was restricted to 290 kilometers in order to comply with the Missile Technology Control Regime. Now this was done because previously India was not a member of the Missile Technology Control Regime. However, in the year 2016, India has now become a member of MTCR, and India plans to increase the range of Brahmos missile to around 600 kilometers strike range. Now another important information is that it is a joint venture between the Russian Federation's NPO Mashinostroyeniya and India's Defense Research Development Organization, or the DRDO. So it is a joint venture of India and Russia. Nextly, the name of Brahmos is derived from the names of 2 rivers, that is the Brahmaputra of India and the Moskva of Russia. And the current status of Brahmos missile is that the Army and Navy have already inducted the missile, while the air-launched variant is undergoing trials. That means that air-launched variant is still to be inducted into the Army or Navy. You should also be aware that Brahmos 2 will be a hypersonic missile, and these hypersonic missiles have speed which is at least 5 times greater than the speed of sound. So this fact should be remembered from prelims point of view. And you should also notice the difference that the current Brahmos missile is a supersonic cruise missile, while the Brahmos 2 will be a hypersonic missile. So all these facts that we have discussed are important for us from prelims point of view. Now let us understand what the present news article talks about. Now the present news article says that the Brahmos missile has now been successfully test fired under extreme weather conditions. Now this testing has proved its all-weather capability because it has been tested at a level of sea state 7. And this sea state is the degree of turbulence at sea, and it is measured on a scale of 0 to 9 according to the height of the waves in the ocean. So it has been tested at the level of 7 according to the sea state scale. And these tests have proven its all-weather capability. Now regarding the question that was asked in 2014 which was related to the Agni 4 missile, the statements read, it is a surface-to-surface missile. Now this statement was correct. It is fueled by liquid propellant only. Now this statement was wrong because Agni 4 missile is fueled by the solid propellant and not by the liquid propellant. Further, the third statement reads, it can deliver 1 ton nuclear warheads about 7,500 km away. Now this statement is also incorrect because it had the range of 4,000 kilometers only. So the correct answer in this case was A, that is 1 only. Further, the question that was asked in the year 2016 read, which one of the following is the best description of INS Astradharini? That was recently in news. So all these defense equipments of national importance which are in news are important for us from prelims point of view. And the correct answer in this case was, it is a torpedo launch and recovery vessel. With this, let us move on to the next article. This news article on page number 7 is related to the upgradation of the Vikas Engine. Now this topic will also fall under the preliminary examination syllabus under the topic current events of national importance. Now previously 2 questions were asked in the year 2016 which were related to the ISRO's achievements. One was related to the Astrosat and second was related to the Mangal. So any developments that are related to ISRO are important for us from prelims point of view. So under this news article, we will understand how the upgradation of this Vikas engine will boost ISRO's space program. Now this news article reads that all the 3 satellite launch vehicles of Indian Space Research Organization, namely the PSLV and GSLV Mk3 launch vehicles, will get a boost to their spacecraft lifting power Because the upgraded version of the Vikas engine which powers these launch vehicles will improve their thrust capacity. So simply the Vikas engine is used in the satellite launching vehicles of ISRO, which are PSLV, GSLV and GSLV Mk3. And the upgradation of this Vikas engine will improve the spacecraft lifting power of these vehicles of ISRO. Now the main beneficiary of this high thrust Vikas engine is said to be the heavy lifting GSLV Mk3 launcher. So the main beneficiary of this improved Vikas engine will be the GSLV Mk3 launcher. Now, and it is expected that it will now put satellites weighing around 4000 kg to space. So simply you should understand that launch vehicles are the carrier rockets that take the satellites to the space. And simply the payload means the weight of the satellite. So in this case, 4000 kg of satellites will be sent to the space using the GSLV Mk3 launcher. And in this, the Vikas engine will be the major booster for this program. Another important fact that should be kept in mind is that this Vikas engine is a family of liquid fueled rocket engines. So the points that are to be remembered are that the improvement in Vikas engine will assist the three launching vehicles, namely the PSLV, GSLV and GSLV Mk3 launch vehicles of ISRO. And through this, ISRO will be capable in putting satellites weighing around 4000 kg into the space. And finally, Vikas engine is a family of liquid fueled rocket engines. Now regarding the question that was asked in the year 2016, it read, with reference to Astrostat, the astronomical observatory launched by India, which of the following statements is or are correct? The first statement reads, other than United States of America and Russia, India is the only country to have launched a similar observatory into space. Now this statement is incorrect because Europe also has its own space observatory which has been launched in the space. Secondly, Astrostat is a 2000 kilogram satellite placed in an orbit at 1650 km above the surface of the Earth. Now this statement is also incorrect. This is because the weight of Astrosat was around 1513 kilograms and it is placed in the orbit at around 650 kilometers above the Earth's surface. So the correct answer in this case was D, that is neither 1 nor 2. So such figures become important for us from prelims point of view. Now the question that was asked in the year 2016 read, consider the following statements. The Mangalyaan launched by ISRO, statement 1 reads, is also called the Mars Orbiter mission. Now this statement is correct. The second statement reads, it made India the second country to have a spacecraft orbit the Mars after USA. Now this statement is incorrect because the Russian Space Agency and the European Space Agency have done it successfully before. Thirdly, it made India the only country to be successful in making its spacecraft orbit the Mars in its very first attempt. Now this statement is also correct. So the correct answer in this case is C, 1 and 3 only. With this, let us move on to the next article. The news article on page number 1 is related to increase in inflation as calculated by the Wholesale Price Index. Now this will fall under the preliminary examination syllabus under the topic economic development. Now previously 2 questions have been asked on such indices which measure the inflation in India. For example, in 2010, a question was asked related to comparison of wholesale price index with consumer price index. And in 2015, a question was asked related to the consumer price index. So let us understand the wholesale price index in detail. Now the news article says that the inflation at the wholesale level increased to 5.77% in June, and this is the highest since December 2013. Now the trend of WPI can be important from prelims point of view. And you should notice that it was the highest in December 2013 where the WPI had the value greater than 6. The second highest point was May 2014 when its value was 5.71%. And presently it is at 5.77% in June 2018. So these peaks should be remembered and the trend should be remembered. So from this angle, it was the lowest in August 2015 at minus 6.14%. So these peaks and lows are important for us from prelims point of view. And the trend should also be remembered that it decreased from May 2014 till August 2015. And then it started increasing and it increased till February 2017. Further, it has fluctuated and has reached a peak in the June 2018. Now the WPI inflation has increased because there has been a rise in the fuel prices and the natural gas prices. And due to this rise in fuel prices, wholesale inflation has also increased in the manufacturing sector. So both these reasons have led to the increase in the WPI inflation. Now the facts that are related to the wholesale price index are The wholesale price index measures the average change in the prices of commodities for bulk sale at the level of early stage of transactions. This means that it only measures inflation at the wholesale level and it does not measure the inflation at the retail level. You should know that at the retail level, it is the CPI or the consumer price index which measures the retail inflation. Now the index basket of WPI or the wholesale price index covers commodities falling under three major groups, namely the primary articles, the fuel and power articles, and the manufactured articles. Now this can be seen in this table, that is the primary articles, fuel and power, and finally the manufacturing products. Now another important point that should be noticed is that WPI does not cover services under this. Further, the base year for measuring WPI is 2011 and 12. And the monthly data of WPI is released by the Office of Economic Advisor, which is under the Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion, that is DIPP, which in turn is under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Further, the weight that is assigned to each major groups is important for us. So the highest weight is for the manufacturing sector, which is around 64.23. And the second highest weight is for the primary articles, that is 22.62. And the lowest weight is assigned to the fuel and power, that is 13.1.5. So all these facts that are related to the wholesale price index should be remembered from prelims point of view. Now another important fact that should be noticed is that previously RBI was using WPI for managing its monetary policy. However, from 2014, the RBI has started using consumer price index for its monetary policy. So this fact should be remembered. And the important point that should be noticed is that RBI does not use WPI for its monetary policy anymore. Now the importance of WPI is that WPI provides estimates for the inflation at the wholesale transaction level for the economy as a whole. Further, this helps in timely intervention by governments to check inflation. And in particular, the government can introduce reforms to check the inflation in essential commodities before the price increase spills over to the retail prices. So it is an important index for government to manage its policy to check the inflation for the essential commodities. Now the question that was asked in 2010 read, with reference to India, consider the following statements. The first statement reads, the wholesale price index in India is available on a monthly basis only. This statement is correct. Further, as compared to consumer price index for industrial workers, the WPI gives less weight to food articles. This statement is also correct. So the correct answer in this case is C, both 1 and 2. Now the question that was asked in 2015 read, which of the following brings out the consumer price index number for industrial workers? The correct answer in this case was C, that is Labor Bureau. So as we have learned in this article, you should remember that the WPI is released by Office of Economic Advisor under DIPP, which is under the Ministry of Commerce. With this, let us move on to the next article. The news article on page number 13 reads that IMF has cut India's growth forecast for 2018 by a notch to 7.3%. This means that the IMF has reduced the India's growth forecast. Now this topic will fall under the General Studies paper 3 of the mains examination. However, in the prelims examination also, questions have been asked on famous reports by the important international institutions. For example, in the year 2015, 16 and 17, there were questions on the important reports by important institutions of the world. So we'll try to answer these questions at the end of this discussion. The news article reads that the International Monetary Fund or the IMF has projected a growth rate of 7.3% in 2018 and 7.5% in 2019 for India. Now this is an improvement over the growth rate of 2017, which was only around 6.7%. However, this latest growth rate projection for India is less than the IMF's April World Economic Report Outlook projection. And the current projection is lower than the April's projection by 0.1% point in 2018 and 0.3% points for 2019. So the IMF has revised the growth forecast for India and it has put it on a lower level as compared to the April's World Economic Outlook report. Now why is India's projection lowered? This projection is lower due to negative effects of higher oil prices on domestic demand and the tightening of monetary policy by RBI, which is reflected in the increase in the policy repo rates by 25 basis points. Now RBI has increased the policy repo rates because of fears of higher expected inflation. So in short, the IMF has lowered the growth rate projection for India as compared to its April World Economic Outlook report. And the lowering of growth rate projection is because of the negative effects of higher oil prices and the increase in repo rate by RBI. Now, this report also highlights that India is the fastest growing country among the major economies. Further, India has outperformed China as the growth rate in China is projected to moderate due to regulatory tightening of financial sectors and softening of external demand. Further, IMF has said that the global growth rate is projected to reach around 3.9% in 2018 and 19. Now, after going through the major highlights of the World Economic Outlook report, let us understand some important facts that are related to the World Economic Outlook report. Now, the World Economic Outlook report is a survey conducted and published by the IMF or the International Monetary Fund. Now, this fact is very important from prelims point of view. Further, this report is published biannually and is updated 2 times in an year. This report provides economic outlook for world economy in the near and medium term. It also provides projections for up to 4 years into the future. Now, the World Economic Forecast is based on key macroeconomic indicators. These include GDP, inflation, current account and the fiscal deficit of more than 180 countries around the globe. And it also deals with the major economic policy issues. So all these facts should be kept in mind from prelims point of view. Now let us try to solve the questions that were asked in the previous year, which were based on the important reports. The question that was asked in 2015 read, which one of the following issues the Global Economic Prospects report periodically? The correct answer in this case was the World Bank. In 2016, the question read, India's ranking in ease of doing business index is sometimes seen in the news. Which of the following has declared that ranking? The correct answer in this case was World Bank. Another question in 2016 read, Global Financial Stability Report is prepared by, and the correct answer in this case was B, that is International Monetary Fund. The question that was asked in 2017 read, which of the following gives the Global Gender Gap Index? And the correct answer in this case was A, that is World Economic Forum. So while solving these questions, we understand that reports which are published by important international institutions are important for us from prelims point. So you should keep in mind that World Economic Outlook report is brought out by the International Monetary Fund or the IMF. With this, let us move on to the next article. The editorial on page number 8 is related to a committee that has been formed to review and suggest changes in the Companies Act. Now this topic will fall under the General Studies paper 2 under the topic Governance. However, this Companies Act also has implications on the economy and the inclusive growth. So it is also a part of General Studies paper 3 because it deals with the corporate social responsibility and also has an implication for the ease of doing business. So it is an overlapping topic and falls under the General Studies paper 2 as well as General Studies paper 3. Now previously in the year 2013, a question was asked related to the Companies Act 2013 in the General Studies paper 3. Now let us understand what is the mandate of this committee and what are the key areas under the Companies Act on which this committee will be suggesting reforms. Now this editorial is in news because the central government has announced the constitution of a 10-member committee to review the offences in the newly enacted Companies Act 2013. So this committee will be reviewing the various offences that are included in the Companies Act 2013. So this act imposes stiff penalties on imprisonment of directors and key management personnel, and the government has created a committee to review these provisions of this Companies Act 2013. Now this committee has been appointed by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Now let us understand what are the key tasks or the mandate of this committee, and we will also understand the benefits that are likely to arise if these suggestions are implemented. Now this committee has been tasked to suggest if certain provisions of Companies Act 2013 can be decriminalized and replaced with monetary fines. So this committee will review if certain provisions of Companies Act 2013 can be decriminalized, and it has also been mandated to replace such crimes with monetary fines only. Further, this committee will examine that offences punishable with a fine or imprisonment may be recategorized as acts that attract civil liabilities. So let's understand that the acts of people and companies have either criminal liabilities or civil liabilities. And under the criminal liabilities, there are provisions of imprisonment, while under the civil liabilities, there are only minor fines that are involved. So this committee has been asked to review if offences which are punishable with a fine or imprisonment may be recategorized as acts that attract civil liabilities. Further, the committee has been asked to reduce the discretion that is available to the officials with respect to imposing the punishments or the fines. The committee has also been asked to suggest an adjudicatory mechanism that allows penalties to be levied for minor violations in an automated manner, thereby reducing the discretion available to the officials. So this committee has been asked to suggest an adjudicatory mechanism, and this has been done in order to reduce the discretion that is available to the officials. Further, another task of this committee is to tone down the nature of certain offences. For example, there are certain simple offences which include spelling mistakes or typographical errors, which as of now can be construed as frauds leading to harsh measures. So there are certain simple offences for which the punishments are very harsh in nature. So this committee has been asked to tone down the nature of such offences. So the important tasks that have been assigned to this committee include decriminalization of certain provisions and replacement of those provisions with monetary fines, to examine if certain acts can be recategorized as civil liabilities, to reduce the discretion of officials, to suggest adjudicatory mechanisms to reduce the discretion of such officials, and to tone down the nature of certain offences which are simple in nature, however punishment for those offences are harsh. Now the likely benefits of such changes will be that it will reduce unnecessary pending cases in the trial courts which are related to minor offences. Further, such changes to the Companies Act will allow trial courts to devote greater attention to serious offences rather than getting engaged in the petty offences or minor offences. Thirdly, by reducing the harsh measures that are present in the Companies Act, it will help in improving the corporate investments and will also improve the ease of doing business in India. So these are the likely benefits if the harsher aspects of the Companies Act are amended. Now this is a news in transition, and once the recommendations of the committee are out, they will be important for us from the mains point of view. So we will keep a track of this news article. With this, let us move on to the next article. The news article on page number 7 reads that the sugar production is set to hit a record high in the next season. Now this topic will fall under the General Studies paper 3 of the mains examination syllabus, and it is related to the issues relating to agriculture. So under this article, we will try to understand the implications of this record sugarcane production. The news article says that according to an estimate by the Indian Sugar Mills Association, the cane farmers or the sugarcane farmers may face about 25,000 crores in payment arrears from the sugar mills by the next May. Now the payment arrears means the payment that is due to the farmers by the sugar mills. Now the reason for this increased payment in arrears is that this will happen due to expectation of a bumper crop in the next year. Now, higher production of sugarcane will lead to higher selling by the farmers to the mill owners. And due to this, the inventory of the mills will increase, and thus the mill owners will have to pay higher arrears to the farmers. So the bumper production in the next year will lead to an increase in the inventory of mills, and this will lead to higher dues to the farmers. Now, as per the ISMA or the Indian Sugar Mills Association, the sugar production might see a record produce in the range from 350 to 355 lakh tons in the next year. Now this will be higher than the 322 lakh tons produced this year. Now the production of sugarcane is likely to increase because of an 8% increase in the acreage under the sugarcane. Acreage means the land under the sugarcane production. Further, adoption of high yielding variety by farmers and adequate rainfall are other reasons for this increased production. So one of the ways to reduce the inventory and increase cash flow to mills, and which will ultimately lead to the cash flow to farmers, is to increase the exports. So the ISMA or the Indian Sugar Mills Association has suggested that there should be an increase in the exports to handle the situation of overproduction of sugarcane. So the news article says that due to higher production or bumper production of sugarcane, the payment dues to the farmers by the sugar mills will increase in the next year. And this is because due to the increased production, there will be an increase in the inventory of mills. Further, this increase in production is because of increase in the land under sugarcane production, and due to the usage of high yielding variety by farmers and adequate rainfall. And to handle such a situation, the ISMA or the Indian Sugar Mills Association has suggested the government to increase the export of sugar. With this, we have come to the end of today's discussion. Now let us move on to the question for the day.